Smart, you can go ahead and deliver our message.
Okay. Honorable Michael Allen and staff, thank you. First and foremost, we thank you for giving us this opportunity to express our deepest concerns in regards to the flagrant and political human rights violation by a despot in our homeland, Eritrea. As a consequence, even we Eritrean Americans here in the USA are not spared from the far-reaching consequences of the oppression of the dictatorial regime. We are representing the voice of the voiceless people in Eritrea, and we operate here in the northern region of California. Among us are members of various political opposition parties, the EYC, Eritrean Youth for Change, a civic organization, and other independent activists working for democratic constitutional governance, individual liberty, rule of law in Eritrea, and for peace with the neighboring countries and the world. Assemblymember Allen, for over 20 years after Eritrea's independence in 1991, the country has no constitutional governance, no rule of law, no freedom of press, no presidential election, and has no legislative body. Instead, we have a cruel, warmongering tyrant who is playing with the lives of Eritreans and Eritrea's future. There's only one political party allowed to operate inside the country, known as the PFDJ. It is led by Mr. Isaiah Soforki, who appointed himself as the president of the people. He refused to implement the country's 1997 ratified constitution. The PFDJ came to formally exist in 1994, and for 14 years it has never held any form of a Congress. This political party is not representative of the people, but the heart and core of the government. For this and many other reasons, we believe that the PFDJ is not a political party that has legal functions. On September 18, 2001, while the world turned its attention to the September 11th attacks in America, a series of terrible events also took place in Eritrea. The agents of the Eritrean secret police arrested many citizens. Among them were high-ranking Central Council members of the PFDJ ruling party, former ministers, independent journalists, and other dissidents. Their fault, as it turns out, is calling for democratic reform. This past September marked the 10th anniversary since their imprisonment in secret prisons, where they are held incommunicado and without charges. There's no way of telling who is alive and who's deceased, as their imprisonment is highly kept secret. This is a serious perfidy to the freedom fighters and to our people who had waged a long and bitter struggle for our independence. The USA designated Eritrea as a country of particular concern. The country is in total isolation from the international community. It is out of IGAD, that is an East African organization. It is also out of OAU, and has no diplomatic ties with the USA. In fact, due to a diplomatic crisis between the US and Eritrea, the role of the US Embassy in Eritrea has dramatically shrunk in the last couple of years. Eritrea is under UN sanctions. Among other illegal acts, the UN monitoring group has verified and reported it is mainly due to arming, financing, and supporting the Al-Shabaab terror group in Somalia that is linked to Al-Qaeda. Assemblymember Michael Allen, you might have seen it from reliable sources such as the U.S. Human Rights 2010 and Amnesty International reports verified that the human rights violation in Eritrea is outrageously ruthless. Prisons in Eritrea are overflowing not only with political critics, but also prisoners of conscience. The reliable reports show that various methods of cruel tortures are used in underground secret prisons. Priests are also forced to go to military training camps. And His Holiness Abun Antonios, Patriarch of the Eritrean Christian Orthodox Tewahedo Church, has been under house arrest since 2005 just because he asked the dictatorial regime not to interfere in the church's affairs. The situation of the youth is also of a great concern. The country's youth are held hostage under guise of national service, with absolutely no time limit. Any Eritrean over 18 years of age is enlisted into the army indefinitely. That is a slave-like forced labor scheme which is severely disrupting and wasting our youth in educational opportunities and productive civil life. The regime shut down the only university in the country, and allows no other institutions, private or public, to function beyond a very limited curriculum that focuses on labor and vocation. These trainings are strictly meant to produce a working force that will be delegated to serve the regime's program and nothing more. In a country where the economy is in complete tatters and inflation is very high, the youth are paid what amounts to less than $10 a month. To put it in perspective, that is roughly 150 NAFA, the local currency in a country where a whole chicken costs anywhere between 200 to 300 NAFAs. Keep in mind that the only able-bodied members of the Eritrean family, the youth, must provide for their families with this 150 NAFA. As a consequence, the Eritrean youth are fleeing the country in droves. They are escaping from the servitude, taking a daunting risk to cross the borders on foot under the shoot-to-kill policy of the PFDJ reckless regime. As a result, the country has become one of the most refugee-producing countries in the world. Eritrean refugees are exposed to tremendous dangers everywhere, ranging from a malicious kidnapping in the Egyptian deserts to devastating capsizing of the boat in which they travel. Just in March 2011, 335 Eritrean refugees, after making it out of Eritrea, crossing a vast desert in eastern Libya, set out to cross the Mediterranean Sea into Italy, when the shabby and unsafe boats carrying them capsized. However, the cruel tyrant dares not to tell the nation of this national tragedy. Instead, the fleeing youth, poor parents are forced to either pay 50,000 NAFA or face imprisonment as retribution for their children's escape. Many family members are unable to pay and consequently face jail time. Ms. Susan Rice, USA Ambassador to the UN, said it best: Eritrea is a black hole. Assemblymember Allen, as a result of the above conditions in Eritrea, though we live away from the country, we, Eritrean American in Northern California and elsewhere, are not spared from the tyrant's oppression. As a consequence, there are growing risks that have risen to physical violence and turmoil within our churches, our political activities, social events, coffee shops that attracted attention of the police, FBI, and the media. Those of us who denounce the Eritrean government are harassed, threatened, and physically attacked. These uncivilized acts against dissenting Eritreans in the Bay Area are instigated by the PFDJ members who operate under the pretext of community centers throughout California and beyond. The Oakland ECCC, Eritrean Community Cultural Center, is a very radical sectarian group that provides political and financial support to the dictatorial regime. An investigative journalist, Mr. Matt O'Brien, Oakland Tribune, August 7, 2011, reported, although the Center denied it, it is public knowledge that the ECCC, after the USA shuttered the Eritrean government consulate in Oakland in 2007, became its proxy. The journalist witnessed that there is a big banner that patronizes PFDJ in their office. Maliciously, the ECCC recruits and hosts young Eritrean Americans, most born in the USA, to carry on the legacy of PFDJ. The group of youth is known as YPFDJ. It deeply concerns us to see that those who attended the well-intended meeting to honor Eritrean immigrants in the Bay Area on August 18, 2011, are some of the most cadres of the PFDJ regime. They are consciously involved to do the bidding of the regime abroad by, among other things, reporting the activities and degree of loyalty or lack thereof to the regime in Eritrea. Even though this particular group exercises its freedom, liberty, and individual rights in the United States, it does not seem to weigh on their conscience that the very freedom they enjoy is denied to our people in Eritrea. In fact, they continue to sustain the regime by holding fundraisers and paying 2% tax of their income in exchange for the privilege of being able to travel to Eritrea, buy homes, and any other self-serving interests. There are now thousands of young Eritreans in the Bay Area who, after an incredibly risky journey from Eritrea, are seeking asylum here. Yet, these ECCC PFDJ loyalists seem to purposely close their eyes to the plight of their brothers and sisters. Instead, They now have engineered a slogan that states, "We are Isaias, and Isaias is us," in reference to the dictator of Eritrea. It is beyond logic how an unelected individual can be a reflection of the people, and it is disgusting how an individual be made into an idol by these individuals at the cost of the truth, at the cost of democracy, at the cost of freedom, and even at the cost of the country itself. An example of the brutality of the ECCC, PFDJ Oakland members, was on August 13, 2011. A few days before they met with you, they had a festival event that is a lucrative financial event and a political platform for the dictatorial regime. In the early evening, they had a conference meeting with the Eritrean ambassador from Belgium by the name Mohammed Solomon. 4 intrepid young adults attended the meeting, and one of them asked a question concerning the welfare of the Eritrean people. These 4 individuals were savagely attacked, hit badly, and bruised. It is very disconcerting on American soil that individuals with dissenting views are attacked and violently tossed out of a public meeting. Some of the very individuals who committed this horrific violation of freedom of speech are those who attended the well-intended meeting on August 18, 2011. I'm one of the 4 individuals. And it's very common for the PFDJ cadres to attack in our community if you speak against them. And we have Binyam Yosef, who was also attacked before the incident that occurred to me. Though we must emphasize that the spirit and intent of your word is highly appreciated, we believe that this deceitful group doesn't deserve your attention. We want to make sure that you are aware of the human rights violation and the suppression of freedom of speech committed by the PFDJ representatives, whom were present to accept the award. On that ground, we want considered officials such as you to be aware of the plight of the Eritrean people and to support us in our endeavor for democracy, individual liberty, and freedom, so we can placate our community here. We are sure you agree that it is unacceptable for some Eritreans who live in a country where they enjoy their freedom while also supporting a regime that destroys its own people. Thank you for giving us your valuable time. Eritrean National Council for Democratic Change, Eritrean People's Democratic Party, Eritrean Youth for Change, Eritrean Independent Activists. October 31st, 2011.
Thank you. Will I be getting a copy of that?
Yes, definitely, we do have it.
Well, you know, all I can say, and I appreciate, I see this as education, you know, and I am a member of Amnesty International, Doctors Without Borders, American Civil Liberties Union, so I think you know where my sentiments lie. I mean, to me, I'm a state official, and what we owe you is safety, freedom of speech in this country. The only thing I know I can do is to make sure that this information is shared with other legislators, with the folks who, you know, who have, you know, even Congress, for instance, has very little say over these international relation issues. But I will certainly not keep this secret. I will let people know what you brought here today. And, you know, and just saying this, I don't, American politics is confusing enough, much less another country that I don't pretend to be an expert on your political issues, but I do know that the era of dictators seems to be leaving, changing, and as you know, we have turmoil in our own country right now, where people are expressing their concerns. So, to me, I take this in the spirit that's intended, which is to educate, and I will share this information with others.
Yes, good. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
No, that was very well done, and you should never, you know, let me tell you this, you know, for many years I've been active in the community, and I used to go and meet with elected officials, And you should not be nervous with your elected officials, because the reason we were elected is to serve the people. And to me, the people are citizens, are folks who are here on visas, immigrants. We represent everybody. And to me, we have the kind of country that we have our own problems, we have our own difficulties. But I've always felt very strongly that the issue of freedom of speech, the ability to feel safe in expressing your opinions, it's one of the duties that I feel like the state owes to its people. Because in this country, and it should be this way all over the world, that the government should be worried and a little bit scared of the people, and not the other way around.
Yes.
That's my attitude.
Yep.
And so, I just want to tell you that you're right. That the ceremony we did have in Sacramento was trying to do it in such a way as to recognize your country, recognizing that there's controversy swirling around. But I think that this country has always stood for, or should stand if it hasn't, for basically allowing people to have self-determination and having. I think democracy is something that it's a concept that it's been gathering steam ever since the French Revolution, and it's still propagating itself all over the world. And so I think we're all part of this huge experiment called human evolution, and that hopefully we will evolve together as opposed to devolve, and to a more compassionate world. And we're not there yet. We're certainly not there yet in this country or in this state. And God knows we have our difficulties. But the reason I told you about the organizations that I'm members of is those organizations are devoted to human rights.
Yes.
We know.
And those human rights should be something that's built into the Constitution of the world. And I think they are through the United Nations, but many times the aspiration does not meet what the reality is. So anyway, I just thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you.
If people in government or in any walk of life would just ask yourself, is this the way you want to see your brother or sister treated? Is this the way you want to see your father or mother treated? When they apply policies or just the way they behave, think of the kind of world we would have.
Yes.
And it's that ability to go blind to that and somehow think that it's all right to treat people not as humans.
الأول تمالالس عادي مربع حسريك تشفنا حقي هاجر معدي لايا تبو خلو هزبي نابلكا تزارب نحسو تشكاتي أتبع الأول تمالالس عادي مربع حسريك تشفنا حقي هاجر معدي لايا صبغلو هزبي نابلكا تزارب نحصو تشكاتي زيدك يدخي أكل عقب زين بالك حلف غيرامي تكون اللي وانا تكون اللي وانا تكون اللي وانا حلف غيراوي تكون اللي وانا تكون اللي وانا تحزنني دنقت القلب زي مفلات من فنقه زنني دنقز القيب زي مفلات نفس غارسيك مقادح ملاخي كدقم لسانك هارين كاتب لني بتبكي حبك كابتز قرني نعشنك قالك رايتك قومي نفس غارسيك مقادح ملاخي كدقم لسانك هارين كاتب لني بتبكي حبك بنزا قلبتي هاجرك خنزلك رأي متاعي كمي زين تايكا كمي زين تايكا كمي زين تايكا رأي متاعي كمي زين تايكا كمي زين تايكا تحسن أني دنجزلك زي مبلغ من وانك تحزن مني دمتك زي مفات من وعندي سئل كنزل كبيرهم كابدم زغفلهم كابزتك عدلهم وتم زورلهم درتم نفيحهم شنحين عبلهم نحا مذكوراي تحت كنزل كبيرهم كابدم زغفلهم كابزتك عدلهم وتم زورلهم درتم نفيحهم